Hello everyone, this is Katie with Homeschooling for His Kingdom. Welcome to the channel. We usually talk about homeschooling ideas or tricks and tips on this channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about standardized testing. And normally I sit over in the classroom and you'll see my flag behind me, but today I'm at the coffee bar by the kitchen because I wanted to just make it more informal. I've got my coffee, and please, if you've got coffee or tea, we'll get started. I just wanted to go over some of the rules of standardized testing and who needs to take the test, who doesn't need to take the test. I'll be reading quite a bit. I've got some material printed out here, so I apologize if I look down. I just don't want to misquote something or missay something. So let's jump right in. Standardized testing comes up annually in the spring and the fall. Normally I do it in the spring because I figure that gives my student almost all year to learn more material. So when I'm testing him on that grade level, he's gone through most of the year with it. So once you pick if you're going to be doing spring or fall, just stick with it if you can. Not everyone needs to take standardized testing. Not every state requires it. So here are some of the, I'll go over the homeschool detail in just a second, but I wanted to share this website with you. It's called Homeschool Legal Defense, so it's hslda.org/legal. And at this website, you can just click on your state, and then it will give you actually a lot of information about your state for homeschooling. But for our specific purpose today, if you're looking up standardized testing, it will tell you, first of all, if it's required for a homeschooler or not. So let's jump into California. We live in California, so I can speak to that state at least. Homeschooling through a charter, most of them will require standardized testing, but the good news is that the charter will be providing the state testing, and then they should be also helping you administer it, or they might just be administering it themselves for your children. If you're homeschooling privately like we do, it's not hard necessarily to get the testing, but in California you actually don't have to do it. So if you're homeschooling privately in California and you're filing your private school affidavit annually, it is not required. State testing is not required. But that doesn't mean you don't have to do it in the sense of if you wanted to. So I just want to. So legally you don't have to, but I kind of like to see where my kids are. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to walk you through how to order the test, how to administer the test, if you're interested. It's not very hard. It does take a couple of days, and I'll go over that here in a minute. The three test options that I want to focus on if you do decide to take the test, or if you're working through a charter and you have questions about their test, the three I want to focus on are the Iowa Form E, the Stanford 10, and the California Achievement. These three are all nationally recognized, and they cover most of the same subjects. They can all work for you. You just need to decide which one you want. So I did a little bit of comparing them for you, and please feel free to look up more information. But they're all available online and paper, if I understand correctly. The Iowa Form E is timed, and you actually need a bachelor's degree to administer that one. The Stanford 10 is not timed, and you don't need a bachelor's degree to administer that one. And then the California Achievement Test is not timed, or it can be timed. You pick which test you want, but you do not need a bachelor's degree to administer this one. This one is also a little bit shorter, and from looking at online, it doesn't seem to differentiate between grades as much. I looked at one of the mom's reviews from the California Achievement who also used the Iowa Form a different year, and she said that the California Achievement had more of a generalized questions, so they weren't grade appropriate as much as the Iowa Form was. However, it is shorter to administer, so I guess you can look more into the detail on that, but those were some of the differences. We use the Iowa Form E. The reason I choose that one is because I like that it's timed, and I also like how it's grade appropriate. We've used it I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. We used it kindergarten one year because I was a newbie mom, homeschooler, and I thought that, oh, we better. This is really smart to do a national test every year just to see how I'm doing, you know, how I'm doing, how he's doing. Our sweet newborn, or excuse me, our oldest, he was in kindergarten and he cried. He cried so bad, you guys. It was so sad. I was stressing out. It took us 2 days to do the kindergarten Iowa State standardized test. Things like he was having a hard time filling in the bubbles. He couldn't focus. He couldn't concentrate. Well, it was kindergarten. And what I'm trying to tell you is it wasn't necessary. In fact, a lot of these standardized tests will actually say 3rd grade or so and up. I think California says 2nd grade and up. I think Iowa State and Stanford say 3rd grade and up. So after that experience, I said not until 3rd grade. So we didn't test in 1st grade for him. We didn't test in 2nd grade. And then we tested last year in 3rd grade, and I just ordered the material for 4th grade. He did so much better. So I still ordered the Iowa form for 3rd grade, but phenomenally better, obviously, right? Because he already knows how to do bubbles and he can focus longer, and the material was pretty age appropriate. I thought he did pretty well. There was some areas of improvement, and then there was some areas where he was ahead. So about average, you know. But it just kind of let us know where anything that we could improve on, or if he was doing really well in a subject, great. Well, maybe we can spend more time on a subject he's not doing so well on. But that's my little backstory on please don't test your kids in kindergarten unless you want to. It isn't really that necessary for kindergarten, 1st, and maybe even 2nd. But they do exist. Standardized tests do exist that young, so it's up to you. But I just wanted to give you that little history. How do I order them? Well, if you decide to take the test voluntarily, or if you're working with the charter to choose one, I order them through Abeka. I can put the link here, or not the link, the web address, abeka.com, homeschool products testing. When you get to this page, they are helping you purchase either the Iowa Form E or the Stanford 10. They're in Florida, so they're not selling the California test. But if you wanted the California Achievement Test, you could go to this webpage, academicexcellence.com. All the tests are about the same price. You just click around, look at the detail. We do it paper version, and I just feel like that's a little bit easier for the younger grades. Maybe when they get better with computer skills, I'll start to do it online. And I do administer it in person, pretty much all day for 2 or 3 days, just depending on how it goes. The sets are not super long, but you would definitely not want to do it all in one day. Okay. So once you order your test from Abeka, if you choose Abeka, that's what I can speak to. It comes in about 2 or 3 weeks. And then you set up a testing day, you sit your kiddos down, you test them, or if it's online, you help them log in for 2 or 3 days, or maybe more. I was speaking to one public school teacher the other day, and she says she uses all week for her public school children. So you take the time that you need. The idea is to get a good result, not a pushed or a stressed result. Okay, so here are some of my tips just from those 2 years in testing and what I'm going to try to do this year, as well as we test for 4th grade. Whatever test, my first idea would be whatever test you choose, try to stick with it. If you pick Iowa, try to stay with Iowa. If you pick California, try to stay with California, because the results, you can kind of watch the graph, like the bar. If you're jumping from test to test too many times, it's a little bit more difficult to watch, like, are they improving every year, or did we do better this year than last year in the same subject? So that would be my first thought. Let's try to stay with the same name brand, I guess you could say, of test. Also, once you order your materials, just choose the days that you're going to test and let your child know. I always like to let Zachariah know what's coming up regarding the standardized test, especially the night before. Remind them, get him to bed early, make sure he's ready in the morning, give him a good breakfast, things like that, just so he's not caught off guard, so that you're working together on it and he's prepared. My next idea would be like I said, spread it out. Try not to do it all in 1 or 2 days. If you think you can, go ahead. But I noticed that 2 days seem to be fine for us. We put it into morning and afternoon, and of course take breaks. Take breaks, as many as you need. Again, you want a good result. You don't want to push them. Also, I already told you this, my sob story about kindergarten. That was another tip. Don't test too early. I would recommend 3rd grade or up. And then also, let me see. Okay, here's a good one, I think, if you haven't thought of this already. If you have younger children, which I do, so right now I have a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a preschooler. So I'm going to be testing my 4th grader. What do I do with my 2nd grader and my preschooler? So these are big testing days for the students that will be tested. And especially if you choose the paper form, you'll be the one administering it most of the day. So you really don't have time to, it's really one-on-one. I mean, you're reading quite a bit, and they're answering, and you're reading, and they're answering on their paper. So it's not really fair to the other kids for you to just give them 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. So I actually don't teach the 2nd grader, and I don't really work with my preschooler on these testing days. So what I would recommend is, so they get freebie days, basically no school on these testing days for Big Brother. So if my 2nd grader is really, she's a leader. She likes to help and protect the baby. You could say, I still call her my baby. She's a preschooler, but she really does work well with the preschooler. So you could say, okay, kiddos try to play together, put somebody in charge, kind of, maybe they can watch a show, maybe they can play outside with the dog, whatever you have. Or you could have your husband stay home that day or those days, or work with his schedule and try to do it when he's naturally home to give you a little backup, or even maybe get a babysitter for the other kids. For my son, this would be my next tip. It needs to be quiet and have really good lighting. So that would go back to maybe get your babysitter or somebody that can help you out to make a quiet environment that day. So quiet, good lighting. My next thought, especially for Zechariah, he thinks really clearly when it's super quiet. So I would recommend a closed door room. So perhaps a bedroom with a desk that you could sit in with a chair to administer, or maybe an office space. We have like a wide open space that we're teaching in right now. It's like the kitchen, the dining room, the living, it's all one big room. So that's not going to work out for us. I'm going to have to, probably we'll set him up in his desk in his bedroom for that day or days, for those days, 2 or 3 days. Because if you can shut the door, it also helps keep out the noise. But specifically for Zechariah, he works really well when it's quiet. Also, just from the experience with kindergarten, not being able to do the bubbles, that's my next tip. Just make sure, practice some bubbles before you get going, so he doesn't do all half bubbles or whatever. Make sure he knows what he's doing, because it's bubbled, filled in. Or at least it was last year, unless something has changed. And then my final idea, I think I already mentioned it a little bit, but make sure they go to bed early. Just remind them the night before. Make sure they have a protein-packed breakfast that morning, and provide protein snacks, fruit, things like that to keep them going. So, and then remind him too, this is not pressure. Like, this is not pass or fail. Remind him that mommy just wants you to do your best. Mommy's just checking to see where you are, Zechariah, but also where mommy is as a teacher, so that they don't feel extra stress, you know. So, and again, at the end of the day, I just wanted to remind you guys to not put too much pressure on yourself either. This is like a gauging or an audit. This isn't like, oh my goodness, you know, he's doing so terrible in such and such subject. No, it just says, hey, there's room for improvement here. Maybe for him, maybe for you. Maybe you need to think about a different curriculum in a certain subject or something like that. But it's a great way to audit yourself. I just want to make sure a great way to audit yourself, but also to encourage your child, especially if they did really well in a certain area. Just really, you know, give them high fives and ice cream or something like that. And also I wanted to, this is what I didn't want to miss. If you've moved that year, had a new baby that year, health issues, anything stressful or dramatic, just have grace with yourself too. Moves are big. Brand new babies are you're so busy. So, have grace with yourself and the children too. If you've had a year like that, maybe lower your expectations even before going into the testing. And then what I do when I get the results too, you know, I think I've said it many times on the channel, we're believers in Christ. We love the Lord very much. And so I pray about the results. I'm like, okay, you know, Holy Spirit, how can we improve? Like, thank you so much. What should I do in XYZ subject? Or thank you that this other subject is going really well. So I always talk to the Lord about it, and he gives me good inspiration to adjust something or change something. Anyways, I hope these thoughts have helped you. If you do choose to do standardized testing this year, I hope it goes really well for you guys. If you have any thoughts or comments, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Have a great day.